Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Family First 60-minute clinic today on the 23rd of February. Thank God it's almost the weekend. That's all I'm going to say. I am reliably informed that Ursula is going to be joining in 13 minutes time at 8:15. So it's not just going to be me again this evening, hopefully. And Ursula is on her way. I think she's been in court in Birmingham today, and I'm going to be in court in Swindon tomorrow. So we're all everywhere all the time. First things first. Just did a very quick count of the amount of messages I have or we have in the Facebook chat, and we're almost at 20, and we haven't even started yet. And we usually get quite a few messages during our broadcast. So I don't think it would be. I don't want to delay too much before we start getting into the messages because there's loads, and I can't, I'm afraid, promise that we're going to get through every single one, but we will do our best. And for anyone that does want to ask a question, I'm going to put a banner up. This one. So if you want to ask a question, you need to like the page, and then you need to private message us. And if you are new, if you haven't private messaged us before or asked a question, then we will assign you a code name. And then only you know what your code name is. And that's how we keep it confidential, because we're all about confidentiality as lawyers. And try not to put anything confidential in the comments. Don't mind people commenting sort of general stuff, but things about your own personal situation shouldn't go in the comments, because otherwise I'll delete it. And yes, so for anyone who's new tuning in, my name's George. I'm a solicitor here at Family First Solicitors. This is a weekly thing we do, just providing some free legal help to people. It's not legal advice, remember. And I think we're going to launch into it. Now, there were a couple of questions that I didn't actually get round to last week. So I promised that I would answer them this week. And the first one is going to be ABBA. Answering. Oh, sorry, I've got the answering now. There's capital letters in all sorts of places, but I'm sure you won't mind. So Abba says, "Hi George, I have a question about Children Act proceedings. I am self-representing while X had a lawyer. I am the applicant. We had a first hearing on the 26th of January, and judge asked the lawyer to make an order for me to submit papers on the 23rd of February. Lawyer delayed making it and sending it to me, apparently because X took time to tweak everything. I finally sent it to her with my comments on the 12th of February, but I got to know yesterday that she is not representing X anymore. Where does that leave me? Should I send the draft order to the court? Do I need X's permission before sending it to court? It has already been delayed. Do I still need to submit papers on the 23rd of February, as the lawyer had indicated in the draft order? I wanted X to submit his papers on the same date too. His lawyer had given him 1 month extra to challenge my submissions. Is that normal? The issue was that of schools as well as child arrangements and passport. Thanks." Okay, Abba, slightly, I think the terminology is confusing me a bit. So your ex was represented, and when you said that the lawyer was asked to make an order, what I think you mean is that the lawyer was asked to draft the order. It's not a lawyer who ever makes an order, it's the judge that makes an order during the hearing, and he will say, or he or she will say, I'm ordering this, I'm directing this. And then this needs to be, and then that needs, at the end of the hearing, needs to be all put in writing into an order. And usually one of the lawyers is asked to do that, because otherwise it would take up too many of the court's resources if the judge was having to do it. So I think that's what you mean. I think then what happened is that there was going to be a direction for you to file a statement, which I think you refer to as papers, submit papers, on the 23rd of February. From reading between the lines, maybe it was that your ex was a complete nightmare about the drafting of the order, and the lawyer, and it's for whatever reason taken far too long, and the lawyer has now not instructed, is what it sounds like, and the lawyer got fired before an order has been the draft order was submitted to the court for the judge to approve, is what it sounds like. I mean, yes, I don't see if now you're both unrepresented, then you might as well send it to the court as soon as possible, kind of explaining the situation, that it's been drafted by the other side's lawyer who is no longer represented, and ask the judge to approve it as soon as possible. But I would say that if it contained dates that were sort of specified or discussed at the hearing, which have now passed, then there probably isn't very much point in those dates being restated if they've now happened. And also, I think you've been ordered to do a statement, is what it sounds like, and then he was also ordered to do a statement. They're not necessarily always ordered to be filed and served on the same day. It might be that he was permitted to file a statement in response to yours, and that's why he's allowed to send it a month after you, because obviously he needs time to read yours and consider it. So it's not necessarily incorrect that a judge will have ordered different dates for you to file your statements. But ultimately, this stuff needs to be in before the next hearing, and within a time that doesn't sort of prejudice one or the other. You know, it's not a situation where you're filing papers at the last minute, which means that someone doesn't have time to, you know, consider their position or get legal advice, as the case may be. So that is what I think you're asking, and I hope that helps. The other one, which we were going to do, is this one. And you are, let me just find your code name. Sorry, I need to scroll up quite a bit. Oh, I can't remember what your code name is. Am I going to have to give you a new one? Oh, Clement Attlee, that's who you are. So I'm just going to say answering now. So Clement Attlee has been representing herself in Children Act proceedings. And this is a situation where I believe your daughter is 4 or 5, and dad was, for a number of reasons, completely absent in the formative years, and then has appeared and is wanting contact. You've provided quite a long message, Clement Attlee, so I'm not going to read out all of it, but just to say that essentially there's going to be a build-up towards overnight contact, and that build-up is longer than what Cafcass had originally suggested. And so you essentially are asking, so you're pleased it's a longer stepped approach, but I don't think the fortnightly something, my contacts, okay, there's quite a lot of typos in here, so it's very difficult for me to understand all of this. So you don't understand if by the gradual stepped increase in duration in the day in her locality means he can drive her somewhere not in the locality to meet his mum. Isn't the stepped approach for just dad and child to build that bond, and for the child to feel company and feel comfortable in the adult's company? Not saying no to that in the future, and the grandparents can visit us anytime they like, but I feel it's a breach of the order already 2 days after the final hearing. He said he is going to dictate her time with her. Okay, Clement Attlee, I'm really sorry, but sometimes just because of the typos and things, it's quite difficult to understand what you're saying. but I'm sort of getting the gist. Okay, this is what I would say. Ultimately, when you go to court, the aim of the court in Children Act proceedings and what everyone should be striving for, and we know that because it's in Section 1 of the Children Act, is that the paramount consideration is the children and their welfare. But ultimately, when you do go to court and you go to a final hearing and a judge makes a decision, ultimately there's someone going to be happy. There's one parent that's going to be happy because the decision has fallen sort of on their side of the court, and a party is going to be unhappy. That's just how that works. That is what court is about. I would say, that the court has actually not just blindly followed what Cafcass says, which is what they do a lot of the time. They have actually listened to what you've said, and they have made an order accordingly. Now, if you're asking whether I think that decision is correct, I can't tell you. And Facebook would certainly not be the appropriate forum for me to do that and to tell you whether or not it's an appealable decision. I think if you were even going to think about doing that, well, first of all, there's a time limit of 21 days to get your foot in the door. And also, I think you'd be completely nuts to do it without proper legal representation on the basis of very carefully thought out advice. It is not the case that you can appeal a decision, less successfully appeal a decision because it's one that you don't like or you don't agree with. And that's all I'm going to say about that. It is not, in any circumstance, an automatic bar on a father or any parent getting to a point where they have overnight contact when that parent has been absent from the child's life in their formative years. And I think that's been a particular sticking point for you, hasn't it, Clement Attlee, about, the fact that he has been absent. But the court or judges just don't make a decision specifically on that basis. And he has clearly shown to the judge and to Cafcass that your daughter is not going to come to harm when she's with him. What might be the case is that obviously you two have different parenting styles. You have different expectations of each other. You don't necessarily trust each other. I don't think you trust him at all. And I think that is obviously very difficult to get your head round when your daughter, obviously the most precious thing in your life, is now going to be under the care of someone else for a bit. And I, for a moment, am not minimizing how that must feel and what that must be like. I get worried enough when the dog is being looked after by someone else. But we are where we are, and you were never going to stop the court making the order that they have made on that basis. So I think probably your energies are going to be much better spent on dealing with how you're going to manage this change that is now set down in an order. Now, I haven't obviously seen the wording of the order, but if in the interim period before overnight contact starts, if it says something like, the contact shall take place in the local area, then that doesn't mean that he can put her in a car and take her out of the local area. I would think, a local area is quite a subjective term, isn't it? But if he's taking her beyond your town or something, then I think that's probably not really in the spirit of the order. Yeah, and I think you just need to be the one that does everything that you're supposed to do under that order, which is going to be promoting the contact, being there for handover, and being optimistic and positive about it, because nothing has gone wrong yet. There hasn't been any drama or someone properly, or handover not taking place or someone being late, as far as I can see. And I think you're just going to have to see how it goes. And the fact is that the interim arrangements are there for a reason. There are going to be hiccups in the earlier stages, and I think you just need to give this time. Give it time, give it time, give it time. And I would absolutely say if you can access counseling or coaching or any kind of professional support about surrounding this, then you should absolutely do that. But I hope that sort of covers that. I think, Clement Attlee, if you want me to be more specific, then can you just double check before you're sending a message, because it's really difficult to understand you because there are quite a lot of typos and things in your messages. But yes, that's what I would say. And I think Ursula is now joining us. So let me.
Yeah, I'm on.
Hello.
Aloha.
I was just saying we've got a good probably 20 messages
Oh,
that are waiting for us. So we're probably not going to get around to everyone else, but to everyone, but we will we'll see what we can do.
Wowzers. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want me to make a start on?
Shall we do let me just find one. Oh, these are all stuff like that.
Sorry, everybody. I just realised it was a lot better if I appeared post-dinner than pre-dinner with the Sweeney and we've had no dinner sort of face on him. When all my advice is no, bugger off.
Oh, we need for this one a code name.
Oh, what were we doing?
Last week I did films starring Meryl Streep.
How about Appalling Soft Rock of the 80s?
Okay, yep. Poison. Okay.
Sorry, this sounds a bit mean. They did have a penchant for kind of slightly hard, but not really names. So Poison.
Is your code name answering now? Okay. So Poison asks, hello, the final order was made in June last year before my son turned 4. 6 months later, his father emailed me asking for me to agree to changes or we would have to return to court. To allow him to cancel contact, to allow him to cancel contact if he, Dad, is feeling unwell, and then pay him back that time. To do the same if my son is unwell. I've never cancelled contact when my son is unwell, but he has, and then demands it back even when my son was admitted to hospital. He was emailing me at the same time asking for me to pay back the time, despite him also being there in the hospital. And to allow him to reschedule weekends if he has other plans, to extend contact to be Friday to Sunday instead of the court-ordered Saturday to Sunday, overnight started at the end of October, and to facilitate video calls every day instead of the court-ordered once a week, along with a few other demands. I responded saying we hadn't yet built up the full court order of extended stays during half terms and holidays, etc., that our son still hasn't settled into overnight contact and it's currently disrupting his routine, that he rarely returns him on time, often an hour/an hour and a half late with no warning, leaving me waiting in the heat/cold on a bench as I don't drive, that he fails to respond to emails regarding food he has given him in his care when he has allergies and keeps having allergic reactions. I gave a detailed response to each of his demands to make it clear why it would not work yet. So you offered various alternatives. He hasn't responded to the emails, but has since emailed me several times asking for longer weekends. You've referred him back to the original email. He is also starting to accuse me of parental alienation. Okay, so general man baby feelings. Yeah, I am feeling quite anxious about having to return to court so soon, but I feel it's heading there as he is an all or nothing man. He was abusive and is continuing to try to control me. Any advice on how to navigate this? And am I right to say no?
This is going back to court, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got an order, so you do not have to agree to anything. You just say, here's the order, mate. The judge made it for a reason, and put the ball in his court. he wants to take you to, if he wants to make an application and take you back to court, then I guess that's on him. And if I was a judge, I'd be extremely unimpressed if I was hearing those kind of demands.
You would want to know what the change in circumstances was that warrants such a change. This matter has just been bejudged, and here we are 6 months later having another crack at it. Wasn't appealed. There's been no mistakes made. So I think he's on a sticky wicket, and I think you should stick to your guns, and you should say what's really concerning is that he knows all that, but thought it would be an excellent time for an application. And I would be mentioning section 9114 add-ons. So I would say the only change to this order really needs to be that a section 9114 order needs to be made to protect us all from litigation for about, I don't know, feeling 3 or 4 years. And say that if he wants to make an application, he's not to let you know about it, has to go to court, and the court will deal with it. And that, in other words, they won't let it through the filter unless it's really, really important and it doesn't like bother you, which is great. That's what it's there for. You don't need to have, well, what I'm hearing from you is this man is very detail orientated, very rigid in his thinking, and consequently really struggles with not getting what he wants when he wants it. I mean, the problem with saying, well, can we do the contact order, but can we at the same time have exactly whatever I want whenever I want it, is that it doesn't allow you to make any arrangements, because you never know when they're going to get overturned, do you? I mean, that's just really difficult. And I think the kind of families who are in the family courts generally don't benefit from flexibility around orders. It's great on paper. It just doesn't work in real life, because it's the flexibility, the fact that there's not give and take. There's often one person giving and one person taking. That's why it doesn't work. And it just leads to conflict and difficulty. And I think I would say to him, I'm not just going to keep going round and round. As George says, here's the court order. It's still in English. It's still in black and white. It's still legit till our son is 18. So we're doing this, or we're not, because the judge has told me to do something else. But I like this order. It's been fully investigated, and that's why we're doing it. That's what I would say. So I'd also go a little bit grey rock, you know, his kind of shenanigans at getting at you and probably texting and emailing you every 5 seconds. I'm sort of getting those vibes as well. Means that he will be making you feel very anxious, and that will be feeding some quite negative emotions. And the sad thing, of course, is that means, whilst I am sure he's very annoying and has some real low EQ issues, he's probably got something to give. Of course, he's got something to give. Unless he's a monster, you know, might be really good at making chocolate cake, might do the best banter around Toy Story films ever. You know, little things, isn't it, that people do, that it's what people remember about their parents. You know, might be a good gardener. I don't know. I mean, his accusations of parental alienation, accusations are just that. That's all they are. They're accusations. That's his opinion. It's a free country. If he's been reading a bit too much of the internet, well, that's a shame. But I would say to him, I'm not alienating. We have a toxic relationship, and that's a shame. But there's nothing that strikes me as something that's worth stopping contact for. We've had it considered. I'm going to abide by the order. Stick like glue to the order. Maybe keep a diary. I think I might do that. It's coming back, isn't it? So that's what I think.
Should we do Minky Whale?
Oh yeah.
Answering
the sea, I can tell.
Yeah, I think this is someone from quite a while ago. She says, I haven't been in touch for a while, but have a question for the live chat, please. My code name was Minky Well in the past. I think this is someone I did some financy stuff with. Anyway, I have a 3-year-old son with my ex-husband, and our son lives with me full time. Sees dad one night a month. It's a high conflict relationship with constant hostility, arguing and criticism despite best efforts. Everything is much harder work than it needs to be. I want to take our son abroad for the first time and have asked X to sign a permission letter. He has said, in principle, I am supportive. However, before I agree to anything, I need to know that you will afford me the same courtesy and allow me to take him away for a week. I have said over and over that I'm supportive of a holiday, but going from 1 night a month to 7 nights away from home is quite a big jump, especially at 3 years old. I've asked him to work on making multi-night stays more normal first. For example, could every visit be 2 nights instead of 1? And can he build in a few even longer stays before the holidays so we can see how our little boy copes and so he's getting used to spending more time with him? What can I do in this situation? I'm not saying no to his holiday, just asking what we have, that we have multi-night stays with him before it, so the holiday isn't so jarring for our son. I feel like he's going to withhold permission until he gets his way, which doesn't feel fair as our little boy is with me full time apart from the 1 night a month. There is no impact of me taking him on holiday, so how can he withhold permission? Can I apply for something that bypasses needing permission from him on the grounds of what he's doing here? Thanks.
No. You get yourself into court, you open that door. I can't just, is there a court order already?
I don't think there is in respect of children, no.
Okay.
Or I don't think so.
Right. Right. So 1 night a month isn't very much. Sorry, I was faffing with my lights. 1 night a month isn't very much. I think you stand a very strong chance. I mean, saving that I don't know the rest of the facts, but I think you stand a very strong chance of far longer time being opened with his dad. And I think one of the things that might fairly be said is that if your little boy was with your ex more often, with his dad more often, then he'd know him better, and this would all be less of a leap because the leap gap would be much smaller. So my concern is that you can't get what you want without opening the door to something that he wants. And I'm pretty sure that's what would happen. Again, I don't know the full facts. As ever, we only know what we're told in the messages. So we just have to kind of shoot from the hip. But yeah, short answer is no. I mean, dare I say it? Mediation?
I was thinking shuttle mediation or something.
Yeah, it's a conversation needs to be had, isn't it? And an arrangement needs to be come to. But because it is a very toxic relationship, you can't do this on your own, I don't think. So I just don't know whether it's worth investigating some way of not being in court, but having a conversation. Because it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? Because I do think a court will say, of course you can go on holiday. You can go where you like. I do think that is what would happen. But the trade-off might be a lot more time. And that might not be something that you might have concerns about that. I mean, just because he's a shit to you doesn't mean to say he's always a bad dad. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the holiday issue is a symptom of the overall illness, for want of a better word, of being the, of the toxic or co-parenting relationship that really doesn't work. And that's the thing which we need to sort out. And that's going to be done by, well, if he's a complete shit, then maybe never. But also, if you can have some kind of arrangement where you are able to talk sensibly, maybe using a co-parenting app, Our Family Wizard or App Close, just having an agreement as to when you'll communicate, having a proper routine of contact. And you've also said, I've just seen, so he chooses to have 1 night a month and he dictates when and how often he sees, and we use App Close. Okay, good.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, I think I mean, yeah, it's curious, isn't it? It's a bit odd. It's a bit odd.
I mean, if he's saying he only wants 1 night a month, then your position needs to be, you need to build up more of a relationship with your child in order to take him abroad. So I am happy for you to go abroad, but these are the conditions. On this date, you have to see him for 2 nights, and that's going to happen, a fortnight later, but for 3 nights. And, as long as you build it up, then you can go abroad, and if you're agreeable to do that, then you can sign my commission letter, and hopefully it will all happen. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. Well, this is literally what I've said. I'm asking for him to spend more time. Right. He's a bit of a narcissist. He's extremely controlling. You can't change him. There's no such thing as a personality change order. You know, if you're asking us, should I go to court and take the consequences? That's how he wants to play. He's a trading man. He wants to just trade things with you because he views his child as a commodity. And that's very sad. Yeah. Just, I think probably going to court is the only way. And a little bit of him probably wants you to pay the fee. He's thinking, go on then, take me to court. I mean, you'll have ample evidence of him only wanting one night a month. So I think that's how he talks about him. Very formal, like a business transaction. Yeah, it is sad. You're right. Yes. Well, I'm very much getting some Spectrum-y vibes, which is odd. Don't know. I've been dealing with a lot of odd men lately. There we are. What can you do? What can you do? Anyway, listen, I am on the wine, but it's only the one, so it don't make me mad. Yeah, and your son will get the hang of it. There is no quick fix, like you say. Clownfish says, do solicitors usually copy their clients into all communications with the other side? No. I'll tell you why. Because if you did that, well, actually, Clownfish has got a couple of questions, but one is, do all solicitors copy their clients into communications with the other side? I do not. I generally have a conversation with my clients which says, unless you actually want me to, I am not going to copy you into every time I email the other side. If you want me to, I'll charge you twice. It's just like the remembering of it. I also think that you risk undermining a potential bridge with the other side. If you have a relationship with a client in which they want you, they just want to know everything that's going on. A little bit of me says, well, why are you not running your case? All right, you run your case. Do pay as you go. You do all the doing. Come to me when you bollocksed it up, or when you need some guidance. Why am I uncomfortable about it, George?
I think because, I mean, I agree. I completely agree with you. I mean, what I would do is, if I was going to send a letter, then I always send it to the client for their approval.
Depends on it does depend. But I wouldn't in a million years send a without prejudice letter or a sort of substantive arrangements about children. None of that. I wouldn't do that for in a million years without having my client's approval. It's really from them, isn't it? It's through me, but it's about their life. I couldn't. But every email, especially as emails, quick medium, it just adds another burden.
And the communication is between professionals, and that what we might say might not be clear to the client. True. Even though it is, and then we would just be sort of using up even more chargeable time explaining what we're saying and why we're saying it. And I think that can get complicated and quite time consuming.
Another question Clownfish has, which I think is quite an interesting one, is, can I add my Mackenzie friend fees to my Form H? I believe you can, and but you'd have to do some deep digging to find out why, because I know you can charge and get back Mackenzie friend fees, but I can't remember why I know that. And I couldn't deep dig for you right now, but you can. I would be clear on the Form H, because Form H doesn't have grades. It doesn't. So in civil litigation or sort of interim applications, people tend to file something called a schedule of costs, which has grades. So there are court approved grades, and as a partner I am grade A, so I think there's some sort of approved court rate, but no solicitor charges the court rate. The commercial deal between clients and solicitors is always for more, because that's the only way you can run your business. But Mackenzie friends aren't within that court approved banding, but that doesn't mean to say you can't charge. And so I would definitely do it. I would definitely tell the judge. I would definitely do some homework beforehand.
Yeah. Clownfish has now come on as a client, by the way, so we will deal with that Clownfish.
Oh, and interestingly, what would your advice be to Lips for getting the most out of pay-as-you-go appointments, please? Well, you would always, I'm very comfortable with people recording me. So that doesn't work for everybody, but I am comfortable with that. Often because my advice is quite rapid fire, and it is, I think people just, I don't know, I just think people want to have another go on it. And so they if you're using an app or, like Teams, you can record. So I don't mind that. I would always advise the most important thing the pay-as-you-go client can do is be ready to capture. Capturing the advice is the most important thing. Slow the lawyer down if you don't understand. Capture what you're being told. Be really, really clear about what your definitive next steps are, and be really, really clear about what things might go awry between now and the next time you think you're coming back to see your lawyer, and have an idea of when you're coming back to see your lawyer. Often it's quite intuitive, but when he responds to the offer letter, for example. But sometimes it's a bit wishy-washy and you're not quite sure when you're supposed to come back. So I mean, we have a form that reminds us to tell you all of those things, which I certainly always use. I mean, George, I presume you use that as well?
Yeah.
It's just there for us, isn't it? It's there for us to remember. Other thing, pay your lawyer straight after. Please don't be hanging for the money. You will not be first in queue. The thing about pay-as-you-go is I really enjoy doing pay-as-you-go because I don't have the work hangover afterwards. The client goes and does the work, and because it's their case, they get on it so quick. They action what you've told them to action. I mean, I'm a little bit, I have slightly porous borders. If somebody emails me afterwards and goes, you said you'd give it a little look. Is this okay? Is this letter okay? Or he's come back really quickly. What do you think? Yeah, I might sort of just email somebody back, but that's not part of the deal, and I wouldn't make a habit of it. Make an appointment. When you want to ask a question, make an appointment. I think isn't it? Did anything else occur to you, George?
No, because I actually think this is a question from last week, which I did answer.
Oh,
I
sorry.
just said that's all right, but it's interesting to hear your thoughts as well. I said write questions down and send them beforehand, because I always like to use the 5 minutes before an appointment, just sort of scanning through some documents if they've been sent.
Yeah, if stuff's been sent, it's nice to have just a few quiet moment yourself before the clock goes on, or for me, before the clock. I mean, the other thing I would say is if you're in any doubt, you need to say to your lawyer, "Hi, how are you? Tell me when the clock's going on." And I tend to do that myself. I say, "Hi, how are you? Clock is on, by the way." Even if it sort of breaks the flow a little bit. Sometimes you get into flow really quickly, especially with clients that I know quite well. I try really hard to go, just say the clock is on. Just focuses people, I think. Yeah, and if you've got big legal work to do, it's going to be a big bill at the end of it. Once you start looking at statements, putting together without prejudice offers, no two ways about it. It's a big legal bill usually. So and it would be if you were going full rep. It's just you're really involved in the advice, probably less because you're doing it pay as you go.
Yeah.
Right. So I hope that helps.
Should we do let's do suffragette?
Go on then. Yeah, is this with my special spelling?
Answering. No, this is mine, because this was a film that Meryl Streep was in, even though she was in it for about 30 seconds, which sort of annoyed me, because I thought a lot of the marketing around that film was quite Meryl Streep focused, and yet she was only in it for about 30 seconds.
Swizzle.
Anyway, so hello, I have a question about bank statements. My ex trailed the voluntary for me out for a year to hide money, and what he did with that money. He also lied about valuations of his assets and left out assets. He also lied about his needs, his income and expenditure, and future needs. We are going to have a first hearing on the 18th of April, and I'm sure he will lie again on his Form E. My question is, can I ask for previous bank statements back to the year before we split, which is what I did for the voluntary Form E? I have wasted time and money for 21 months and still no further forward. I don't understand why voluntary Form Es don't have a fixed timescale, because it's useless, where our Form Es were at different stages to each other and he trailed out time to hide his money. The lies about his expenditure were obvious when compared to his bank statements. Why didn't his solicitor question this before sending it? It all seems wrong. Thanks in advance. Well,
welcome to the professional formation of me. That there's a moment in my professional career where I went, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. For voluntary disclosure is a real problem, I think, in our sector, because if you need it, then quite a lot of the time it's because somebody is not really wanting to play the game, and people can use it for exactly that purpose. It spins time out. By the time the non-negotiable window, which is the court having got a grip of it, somebody's issued proceedings, by the time that comes along, where are you? You know, you're 12 months down the line and you've spent 12 months of money, in your case, 21 months of time, faffing about. So agreed. And I'm sorry to hear it. But you've let the timetable finally get a grip. You need the judge's permission to get more than 1 year's bank statements. So if I were you, it's going to be part of your questionnaire, or your issues, your statements of issues. You know, that there was a voluntary Form E. It said all of this behaviour around finance is very relevant to the situation we find ourselves in now. I guess your problem is that courts tend to make decisions on the money as it stands at the hearing. So it might be, well, I'm sorry, that money's fallen down the toilet. What do you want me to do about it? That might be the judge's answer. But you have to show why it's relevant to now. Yeah. Any other thoughts, George?
And I'll just say, if it's obvious from his bank statements that things he said about his future needs or his expenditure and everything is rubbish, then that's in a way a good thing for your case. That's something you're going to be able to make submissions on or cross-examine on later on. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Right, let's go to... let's do John Major. I'm just going to say answering now. So John Major says, I need to compile a position statement next week if her solicitor does not comply to the offer made by Henrietta, which the 14-day deadline ended today. When doing this, should I put in the dates of the out-of-court offers made previously without the amounts included? If I have to attend court, which would be a week Monday, will I be questioned by her solicitor/barrister or not at all, as I will also have a barrister? Will she be questioned also? If there is a late reply from her solicitor regarding the offer submitted, what do I do, as I need to appoint a barrister ASAP, which Henrietta has sourced for me? Kind regards. John Major, are you able to say what hearing you've got? It's either it's either going to be an FDR or it's going to be a final hearing, and understanding which one is quite important.
Yeah. And just trying to, can I, 2 secs. Your friend is also messaging us. I'm trying to help one of your clients. He is now asking for monetary help from my trust fund. I don't really understand what that means. I'm sorry. So I might. Oh, it's an FDR, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so perhaps your Mackenzie friend can help out with what does he mean, he or she mean about the trust fund thing. Sorry to be thick.
Yeah. But just about the FDR,
Yeah.
the whole point of the FDR is that it's a without prejudice exercise. So you need to leave out any open offers or mentions of open offers that you've made prior to the FDR, because the whole point of the FDR is that it's without prejudice. The judge you have at the FDR will not be the same judge that you have at the final hearing. Definitely 100% can't be the same person. So you just need to include the without prejudice offers that have been made. And then hopefully we're going to get a bit of clarity on this trust fund situation.
Yeah. And just going to Brahms very quickly. I think, Brahms, one of the problems with your questions are that you already have a hearing, a set of hearings, a set of proceedings that have been done and dusted with you losing residency of your youngest child because of parental alienation. And you've taken it back to court. And you've said that CAFCAS have been put in the bin because they said no safeguarding, but actually there was domestic abuse, and you've got lots of evidence. And your evidence was your diagnosis of CPTSD resulting from emotional, physical, and sexual domestic abuse. Another saying that the child had been referred to child mental health services due to concerns about suicidal ideation because witnessing domestic abuse. A social worker saying child is emotionally and psychologically suffering, and social services saying no concerns about you when they were in your care. And what chance do you have in getting my child back with you safe and with siblings? And if so, how soon? The dad has refused, cancelled, obstructed contact, not allowed face-to-face despite the children begging. Your problem is that if there's been a finding of parental alienation, then the children really wanting to see you is something the court might wear in terms of going against their wishes and feelings. That you're in a very tough place. And also, why was none of this evidence before the court the last time? What does no FFH mean?
Fact-finding hearing.
Oh yeah, sorry, no fact-finding. Okay, well, I don't understand why that wasn't appealed. Sorry, that's really dim of me. Yeah, that should have been appealed. If there should have been a fact-finding hearing, then it should have been appealed. So if it is an appeal, great. And Brahms says you already had an appeal in place before the final hearing. Everybody's being very confusing tonight. Okay, well, what was the outcome of your appeal, Brahms? Is this the appeal? Is this an appeal that's means that because of fresh evidence, you're successful on your appeal because there's fresh evidence and there has to be a rehearing? Is that what's happening? I think the overall question that you're asking me is, what are your chances of success? And I think the only real answer I can give you is I think that's quite a tall order to actually answer. Oh, your appeal was dismissed because it was out of time. Well, I think you're asking me something I can't answer to you. I don't know the facts well enough, and I'm not your lawyer, so I'm really sorry. I just don't think I can help on that level of information. It's always an uphill battle to overturn a judge's decision. You know, a judge that had the benefit of seeing the evidence is unlikely to go, oh yeah, I was wrong. It just aren't. So sorry about that. I don't know is the answer, but it's worth a go. Right, where are we?
Should we just do that? This is quite a short one. Ren. My soon-to-be ex has racked up lots of post-separation debts. Is she allowed to claim these from the marital pot? Is there a schedule of deficiencies at the final hearing? Well, she can certainly try and claim them from the matrimonial pot. I think the answer is she likely to be successful? I think there's quite a lot of case law that essentially says that, you know, if you incur debt off your own back, i.e., you know, that debt that isn't kind of used within the marriage, then it's likely that you probably can't claim it from the matrimonial pot. It's obviously going to depend on what the extent of the assets are, what the effect is going to be on her if she can't claim it from the matrimonial pot, and it will go to the ever central question in these cases of what is fair. So
Yeah.
if it's not going to be fair, that, you know, if she, I don't know, post separation got a gambling addiction and incurred debts that way or something, that's going to mean that you can't, that you can't buy your own place to live, then I don't think she would be able to claim it. But it really depends on the circumstances.
It does feel to me as if it's almost the opposite of a post-matrimonial accrual. It's a post-matrimonial hole in the side of the boat. Yeah, I think fairness is going to be a very important part. No judge will feel that's fair. They have a problem with meeting needs, of course, but they won't feel it's fair, and it's going to depend on evidence. So you need to be able to explain to the judge what the issue is, make sure you get the evidence.
Mm.
Wow. This is Abba. Abba says, hi, George. Sorry, it's Ursula. What happens if the other party just refuses to accept and follow the directions order? I've gone into the final hearing. I need several expert reports, but my ex has refused to open the door for the process server, failed to attend the mention hearings, and just been non-cooperative all along. He's not represented anymore as his lawyer's firm was struck off by the SRA. How do I get him to follow orders? I do not want to increase my costs for chasing him. Well, number one, you must make sure your solicitors are filing cost schedules on him on a regular basis. And the cost schedule is going to say something like, you're being an idiot. This is how much it's costing us for you to be an idiot. And we will be applying for our costs because this is litigation conduct. Litigation conduct does matter in Children Act matters. And although judges are not big on making orders for in Children Act matters for the other side to pay, this sounds like they will. So that's the first thing. You push with costs. The other thing is, if it's really material, if there's a real material breach of an order, you might want to think about bringing contempt, an application to show cause as to why he should not be committed to prison for contempt of the court's process. You'll need to look into that. I think off the top of my head, it's Practice Direction 39, high 30s, something like that, which deals with contempt applications. They're not simple. They cause more than one hearing to happen. They are satellite litigation. Sometimes there's something about the faint sound of the clanging prison door that brings people to their senses. Court's unlikely to enforce its own contempt applications unless he's really outrageous in the face of the court. Instead, they tend to just not give that kind of person what they want. So it's a sort of three-pronged approach. It's costs, contempt, and reminding yourself that somebody who refuses to obey court orders so prejudices themselves in front of the court that they often don't get. Oh, that was exciting. Yeah, so you could do nothing and just keep going, look, and he's a liar. That might work, but I would definitely be filing cost schedules on him. N260 it is. Let's get your solicitors to do that. Oh, it's for finances. Yeah. Okay. Even more. Where somebody is, I mean, there's case law on litigation conduct and conduct generally. I mean, litigation conduct is a kind of conduct within the financial proceedings. Mr. Justice Mostyn, in a case called, the way I think of it is called Ag versus Og. So Ag and Og, in fact, I shall have a little look, see if I can find the reference for you. Give it a read. Ag v Og. Mr. Justice Mostyn giving it the big one and saying, and this is what conduct looks like, and it's not okay. One very specific one being litigation misconduct, which may result in a litigant being severely penalised in costs, but will only very rarely affect the substantive disposition. In English, that means whacking some costs against that litigant, but maybe not making it so that they can't have anywhere to live. But I will just stick the Family Law Week link in here for you. Okay. There you go. Og and Ag, everybody's favourite Judge Mostyn case whenever somebody's being naughty.
This one needs a new code name, Ursula.
Motley Crue, surely. Both terrible and from the 80s. And hard rock. I said soft rock, didn't I? But I'm going with hard rock, really. That's what I meant. I may or may not have had a misspent youth.
Okay. Motley Crue. Long post.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I'm looking for some advice. I have a 3-year-old daughter whose father has full access to her, i.e. I have never stopped him seeing her and have said to just let me know when he wants to see her and we can arrange it. However, since we split in 2020, he moved away and has only seen her 3 times since. And each time he has seen her, he had shouted at her for crying and swears at her / in front of her. He doesn't play with her and just wants to sit on his phone. He FaceTimes very sporadically, and at the moment she doesn't want to talk to him because he has nothing to say to her. He was very verbally abusive while we were together and sometimes physically. And since we've split, the verbal abuse has continued via messages, which involves voice notes of him telling me that he hopes I die in a car crash. I know he smokes weed and has been told by many and him that he is also taking cocaine, which is a big worry. He has told me he no longer does it, but again, I've been told by many that he still does. He has now said that he is moving back to the area and wants to spend all of his time with her, which is a concern due to all of the above, and has set off my anxiety about standing up to him with his abuse. I have the messages downloaded and have started a contact diary, which I'm in the process of trying to backdate with the help of the messages. If he has contact with her, I would prefer it to be in a contact center where he is supervised and possibly have a drug test beforehand. And if not, would I have the right to remove her from the situation if I feel like she isn't safe / being treated appropriately for her age? Does anyone have any advice or a way to help?
Well, let's just say I am doing some posting. Sorry, everything's coming up twice because we seem to be on YouTube as well, George. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh yeah, I think we're live streaming on YouTube today as well. Yeah,
because we are. Hello, YouTube. Yeah. The Wheel of Power and Control is something I would like you to look at. I have just posted the link to the Wheel of Power and Control. It appears to me that you might not quite have recognised the extent of his abuse and that your daughter is a witness to that abuse and you are being highly impacted by that abuse. One of the impacts I think it has on you is because I suspect you fairly recently exited the relationship. By recently, I mean like within the last 2 years. You slightly, because it's not an everyday experience, you slightly normalized it. It's like just what he's like, you know, idiot, but he's dad. And I wonder whether you just need to be a little bit firmer with yourself as to your, this is not you, I'm not criticizing you, just let me be clear. So this is my advice to you, is to be firmer with yourself about what this is. This is abusive behavior. This is domestically abusive behavior. You're a connected person. The daughter is a connected person. It's happening to family members. You've described some quite, I would say, some quite serious emotional, psychological abuse for a child and for a grown-up. Really, really crappy, low self-esteem. That's the sort of way that happens. So I think step one is calling this out, having words for this. I think you should be doing the Freedom Programme. So I'm going to go and find that. I think your instincts to stop the contact in a do what you like kind of way is 100% the right thing to do. And I think there's a real question over his drug use at all. He's got to change, right? We can't go on like this. We can't go on like this. That's my view. So I've just put down something called the Freedom Programme. You would really, really benefit from doing the Freedom Programme, preferably on loop, so that you just keep reinforcing what is happening here, what's been happening to you. I think a contact centre where he's supervised is the bare minimum. And I possibly would say, and I'm not even going to get out of bed for a contact centre until I've got a clear test for cocaine. And also it's a condition of contact that he's not a boozer. You know, he's not on the booze when he's doing it. But he is, his parenting, I think, is gravely failing your child. And it's your duty to protect her from that. And if you've been swimming around in a bubble of it'll be okay, everything will be okay, everything isn't okay on any level. So you're right. What you're saying, what you said, how did you put it? You said, it set off my anxiety about standing up to him with his abuse. I think you need some help. So I'd get into women's aid. You need a champion. You need somebody who's by your side, somebody who can help you. I mean, I think, why do you have to deal with this guy? Exactly that. It's making you anxious. It's really bad for you as well. So it seems to me that you could really use some representation if this ends up anywhere near a court. Okay. But I'm concerned for you. And I wonder whether you get legal aid. You might get legal aid. Okay. So that's what I think. Hope that helps. And anybody's got any other advice, stick it in the comments. And if you've got any other questions, let us know.
Oh, this is quite a good one. And we need another code name.
Metallica. I think it's not the first time I've done Metallica. I have a feeling I've gone around this yard before. I had a friend who used to call them Metallica. You're in the 80s as well. No better.
So Metallica says, hi, I got sent a notice of home rights today. He has already moved out. Does this mean he has the right to move back in? If you're still married, then yes, he has a right of occupation of that property. Regardless of the fact he's not a legal owner of it, he has a beneficial entitlement to it. So what you need to do is get on with the divorce process. And once you've got to the final order stage of the divorce process, which takes 26 weeks, if you're applying for things as soon as you're able to apply for them, then you can get it removed. But it would also be a good idea to get your overall finances settled, preferably by way of a court order, and hopefully by agreement. Have no idea what the relationship is like and how likely an agreement is, but mediation is often a very good place to start. And you know, try and sort it out through that kind of forum. It's going to be the quickest way and the cheapest way. But yes, notice of home rights is someone preserving their right of occupation. You technically cannot just change the locks and hope that he never comes back, because he has a right to occupy that property.
I just added on, I was asked by Motley Crue, so I'm in my rights to say no to contact without a clear drug test. Yes, you are within your rights. And number 2, how do I set up a contact centre? And I said to her, you need supervised contact, not the old biddy sort with tea in a church hall. What I really mean by that is there's 2 kinds of contact centre, 2 kinds of contact. One is supervised. That is where a social worker is in the same room taking notes as to interactions. So it's really heavy. And the second one is supported contact. And that's, I'm being a bit disparaging when I say, oh, biddy's in a church hall, is because they're always in a church hall. They tend to be run by the National Association of Contact Centres. They would, of course, not let contact go ahead if they had a sense that somebody was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. But they're not there to take notes. And what they tend not to do, in fact, unless something really untoward happens, they don't report. They don't make reports in. I mean, why are you doing all the running around again? Why is this incompetent and not safe father not getting off his arse and sorting things out? Just don't understand why you have to do all the emotional labour and indeed the administrative labour. I'm just wondering when your paycheck for becoming his secretary is going to arrive. All right, and I think it's all part of the abuse pattern, to be honest. So there you go. A quick question being answered for, oh gosh, who is this? Skoda from 12 billion years ago. So I can see you must have done a question last week. Oh yeah, first hearing. I just need, okay. I'll only answer the new question, but I'm going to read the answer to the old question because that was quite interesting. Also, I've been told the bundle, it was today. George.
Yeah.
Does I shall say Skoda is this one. Skoda is this. Yeah. Have you answered the question? I'm guessing you haven't. That came at 1938.
No.
Ah, okay. So this is the really strange one when the ex got an order he didn't like, and somehow his lawyers have got the judge to revisit it. And it's really odd because it's not an appeal. Little update from my child case, as Ursula was quite keen to know the complications. Yes, I was. If you remember, my ex made another Children Act application after 19 days after the final order of no contact had been made by the judge, and he made a cost order against him. So we had the first hearing on the second application with the same judge, and the judge has ordered a Section 7 report and called for a second hearing on the 31st of May and will order directions then. He still kept to no interim contacts. I raised the question why he was allowed when the final order was made. Judge said he is allowed to make applications. The judge only did to punish him due to non-compliance and not taking court orders seriously, but he will still not change the findings that my ex has been abusive to me and the kids. I'm still confused why this is allowed, so am I. When the kids have spoken to the social worker and mentioned the physical and mental abuse they faced and the judge found him guilty. Do not understand this process. Mate, I am as in the dark as you are. On the other side, I have a final hearing in April. Okay, this is for finances. I've been preparing my Section 25 and advised to add my open offer in my Section 25. Yes, my deadline to submit this is on the 28th of Feb. He has sublet 2 rooms where he stays. He's dissipated 234,000 quid, transferred 50 quid to his dad, claiming his old loans, sold 2 marital cars for 35k, and created debts by leased luxury cars, more loans and debts created. Also, I paid 75,000 quid in mortgage compared to him, which capital repayment compared to him, his £25,000 just for the interest. This is due, okay, something. Should I have it in my open offer? I think you should. I think the approach, I don't think you'll find that having told him what's wrong with his ridiculous behaviour is in any way going to damage the cross-examination. But because what he's done is so wrong. It's, I mean, it's just, you need to know the answers to why he did it. So try and make sure your section 25 and your open offer is very full. I think that's what I would do. And I think it's a little bit dangerous for me to be specific with the money stuff. I mean, could you get an appointment with your direct access barrister about that? You've been told the bundle should not be more than 350 pages, but my FDR one was 311 pages, and there are more orders, and my section 25 with exhibits where I can prove he's dissipated the money, the emails, the share certificates, etc. What shall I do? Option 1, you sneak him in and hope nobody notices. Okay. Option 2, you remove all the extraneous, unhelpful and boring notices of hearing, every page that doesn't look sensible or important. Option 3, you make an application and say, I need the bundle. I'm giving the court heads up. It needs to be 450 pages long. Sorry about that. My statement is X amount of time. I'm representing myself. It's all relevant, I promise. I just don't want an argument when we get to court. What would I favour? It's a bit naughty. I'd probably go with option 1. I'm a bad person and you mustn't listen to me. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do, but I might do that. And it's
Oh, we've got the order.
I'm having a look at it. Oh, that's really weird. So he sort of explained what he's doing.
So he's allowed the father to make a fresh application,
but not reopening the findings.
That's interesting.
I just wonder whether it had properly finished. I'm just wondering whether it's a little bit odd, isn't it?
Just so odd. I've never heard of that kind of thing happening.
The only thing I'm thinking is that maybe, is it possible that the fact find? No, the fact find. This wasn't the fact find, and we didn't do welfare. The welfare was done as well. I honestly think that something really strange is happening here. But you've got representation. Yeah, it's just really weird. It feels very appealable. I'm not trying to make trouble. But yeah, it does feel very appealable. Oh, bloody hell, I've just lost Facebook. Where were we? It's 9:15.
Yeah, I was just noticing that.
How much more have we got?
Well, we haven't answered everyone, but we can always come back to you all next week.
Yeah. Yikes. Are we not? We're not done. Oh, Led Zeppelin says, did you do this?
No, I haven't done Led Zeppelin.
So Led Zeppelin is saying, no, that was that one. How do you address the judge in a divorce court, Your Honour or Judge? It depends on the level of judge. If it's a district judge or a deputy district judge, they're called judge. Used to be sir or madam, as in a month ago, then it switched. It's now judge, which is all a bit weird. And if it's a circuit judge, it will be Your Honour. Look, you can't kind of go wrong with promoting a judge to Your Honour, can you? So I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't worry. People say all sorts of things in courts.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to hold it against you. Your worship.
Or promote them even more and go with my lord or my lady.
Yeah, just go mad. Yes, yes, Your Majesty. It's a bit extreme, isn't it? I think we all know that that's just sucking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, don't worry too much. But if it's a deputy or district judge, it's judge. And ask the usher. The usher will know on the day.
Okay. Or ask the judge. I don't think any judge would mind and say, "I'm sorry, but before I start, how do I address you?" I think that's fine to say.
Yeah. Hey, did we get Emmerdale?
No, I haven't read Emmerdale yet.
You know what Emmerdale wants to say? Emmerdale wants to say outcome of Mrs. Emmerdale's recent divorce final hearing. So at the final hearing, Mrs. Emmerdale had the rare option not to go on the stand for cross-examination, as the judge read my case and said Mrs. E could be exempted. Mrs. Emmerdale still decided to go on the stand as wanted her experienced barrister to catch out naughty Mr. Emmerdale. Well, the subject of the previously undisclosed trust came up, as there was email evidence of the said trust, which was in the bundle, although it was missing from the schedule of assets. So Mr. Emmerdale admitted there was a trust of about 80k, but refused to show the asset schedules. There was an OMG moment where Mr. Emmerdale responded to my barrister's questions, stating that in November 2019, the trust assets were moved from 4 people's names to an account with only his mum's name to protect the funds against his brother's ex-wife, as he was getting divorced. Both me and my ex and his brother and ex-wife were getting divorced in October 2019, i.e. about the same time as each other. To conclude, the judge is summing up. Judge was really kind about Mrs. Emmerdale about the high level of legal paperwork, said she was honest, intelligent, etc., and said how she hated how families close in on themselves and move funds to deprive Mrs. Emmerdale, and her ex-sister-in-law, Mr. Emmerdale, was then slated for hiding behind his parents as he refused to show paperwork. The split was 57-37 in favour of Mrs. Emmerdale and a pension share. However, there was a rare clause included in the final order which meant that Mrs. Emmerdale can trigger a BARDA event and then redo the final hearing at any time should the amount not disclosed to the court be significantly more than 80k. However, without the usual need to apply to court for permission to proceed. The direct access barrister said he'd never heard of such a ruling in his 22 years at court. Agreed. I've never heard of that. Anyway, David and Goliath, Mr. Emmerdale was represented all the way through, while Mrs. Emmerdale used a Mackenzie friend, had a direct access barrister for the final hearing. Thank you, to Family First solicitors. Huge thanks to Ursula and George for all of your sterling support through your weekly legal advice sessions. George and Ursula, you rock.
Love that's nice. Emmerdale.
How kind. I am gobsmacked.
Yeah.
And really thrilled.
Yeah, wow. What a good result.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, good for you, Emmerdale.
Yeah, really, really good. Fantastic. Gosh. Wow. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. That's great. Oh, I'm really pleased about that. Really pleased. So there you go. Sometimes it's worth just really struggling on, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Right. Well, I don't know who's not been answered now. That's it. I've got everybody who I can see. Just wonder whether we got everyone.
Yeah, we may have done. If we haven't, then we're sorry, and we'll come back to you next week.
Yeah. Well, that's a good news story, isn't it? That's really a good news story. Yeah. Smash the man, baby. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely buzzing. Definitely buzzing. And everybody's buzzing for you. That's really good. It's nice to see the comments. That's brilliant. Oops, I've done there. Oops, I've just done some redirecting. Well, can we go? Can I finish off my glass of wine now?
Yeah.
Right. How do we do that then? Okay, everybody, listen, thanks very much. Thanks for all the updates as well. I'm always very interested in those. So thanks for that. And we will see you next week. That means tomorrow is Friday.
Yay.
Oh, poor George. Bye.
Bye.